Hello. I'm live. There's thunder outside. It might start to pour. And that would actually be kind of a cool backdrop, I feel like a soothing white noise. Hello, everybody. There are only 3 people watching right now. I had so many things that I wanted to say right when I got on, but I can't remember them now. Oh, Molly is here with us, and it's so hot outside that we're not really able to do anything out there. So if she gets antsy mid-call, I apologize in advance. She'll just maybe have to become part of the call. Hello, hello, hello. You guys are saying hi. I assume you can hear me. So I wanted to say that I realized that some people who wanted to watch the replays didn't even know where to find them all along. I was just seeing some people saying, so where do I find the replays? Because I was curious if people were taking advantage of the fact that I was turning this into an audio file and a video file. If you wanted to like save it to your device and watch it later or listen to it in the car. And so my first question was, do you guys even know that I'm offering this? And some people were saying, wait, where do I find the replay at all? And I realized that the way that it's set up, because the call happens on the last day of the week's curriculum, that it goes away from the featured posts and the next week's is featured the next day, if that makes sense. Because I've been downloading and uploading and posting the YouTube replay link, which is just the same as the live call, but the audio and the video to the event, like to the actual, if you go into events and you can look at all the calls there, they're posted in the events and in the overall like actual reading assignment overview for each week. However, I understand that it's kind of tricky to navigate. So I did a thing this week where I updated the syllabus and I made it syllabus and quick links, and I'm going to keep that featured for the rest of the course. So I hope that's helpful to find all of the links really easily. And Becca has said that she's watched the replays even if she was here live for the calls, because the other thing that I was nervous about was that somehow I was seeing like near 200 people were watching the call, but there were only 120 of you in the group. And I freaked out that somehow it was getting out to other people, and I wanted to protect you guys. And I also was like, this isn't to share with your friend. Be like, hey, look, it doesn't really make sense, because it would have had to mean that somebody then they shared it with other people. I just wanted to take the opportunity to make sure that we knew we weren't supposed to share these. But at the same time, enough of you have said that you are rewatching it or watching in many goes, which also might count as many views. So it's probably not happening, and it's not a problem. My mother just messaged me on Facebook and said, give yourself an underwire break. I'm assuming that she sent me some article about how underwire is bad for you. I literally just did yeah, she did. I'll have to watch it later. I know that it's bad for me. But fuck it. I literally also read an article about and it's all to do with what we talk about in here, how we now believe that, especially bigger boobs, which I obviously have, we say to smaller boobed people, oh, I wish that I could do what you do. I wish I didn't have to wear a bra, but it's all just conditioned. So I walked around the house earlier with no bra, and I was like, and in the heat, like I need everything like lifted, and so I just, anyway, it's a whole thing. I understand. Same with shaving and shaving legs and shaving armpits. Like I've laxed up everything. I've laxed up my standards, but I'm still like, oh, I can't. It's really hard for me to go to the next level. But who knows? Who knows, guys? Who knows what'll happen? What bra do I use? Always looking for a good one. So I go through every year or two, I have like a new style that I stick to, and I have like 6 of them, and I have them in 2 different sizes. and that's the only thing I wear. And then I like experiment with a new one and I move on to that. So I've had many different ones, but I buy them from barenecessities.com because they have many, 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 many sizes. And I order some different styles and I try them on and I send back the ones that I don't like and I reorder different sizes. And then I find my favorite ones and I find the 2 sizes that work. This is like maybe been the past, I don't know, maybe 7 years. Maybe I started really doing this right, like at the beginning of the FACA diet. But because before then I would just like, I don't even know what I did. There was a year where I only wore sports, like in college, I only wore sports bras. And there was one summer where I only wore this like one huge bathing suit that I had because nothing else fit. And I was, that was before the FACA diet. So I was super, super, super resistant to like actually buy something in the right size for me. Cause I was like, this is going to go away. This is going to go away. So there's nothing wrong with wearing anything, like if it makes you feel comfortable, but I really hate when my boobs are pushed together, because it reminds me of times when I'd wear bras that didn't fit me and I like wouldn't. And so I feel better when the bra fits well and when like, even though these are kind of like, anyway, I don't know. I'm feeling very scatterbrained right now talking about it, but so the bra brand that I wear, and then I realized that they made minimizers because there are some bras that are my size that are like very pointy. And because there's like such a large cup, it's like they're like really, and they're like molded and they're like weirdly pointy. Like the shape matters too. So these are sort of like, let's see, what are they called? I'm going to look in my, they are, I think they're Chantel. Bare Necessities order last August. I ordered more. They're called C Magnifique Sexy Minimizer Bra in a 32G and a 32F. Chantel. Look it up. They're pretty great. They're pretty good. They're very, very comfortable. And Molly, stop it. Stop. Come back. Come back. Come back. All right. So Sabrina said, I feel that one on the shaving. I wear sports bras a lot, Becca said, which is why I wanted to say that. Oh my God. She's going to be annoying. I'm sorry, guys. They might have a 4th of July sale. I really like Bare Necessities and I really like ordering it online just so I can try on a lot of different things. And then when I find the one that I like, I just order lots and I order 2 different sizes. Right now it's like the time of the month where everything is way bigger. So I'm like in the big one, like busting out of the big one. Yes, for the up to 70% off for the 4th of July. So friends, I recommend it. And I recommend getting bras that fit. I really, really do. It's a game changer. It's a game changer very practically. And it's a game changer, like symbolically, to be like, I am willing to actually get things that fit in the specific size, because bras are such a specific fit. Now, some people really hate the feeling of having a bra on. I just hate the feeling of having a bra that doesn't fit. So I feel great if I'm wearing a bra that fits. And Becca said, I do all clothes shopping online. And that's sometimes, I mean, that's another thing. Also, when people are in plus sizes, sometimes there's literally no option but to do it online and to get many sizes and to try many things on and then send them back. I'm also wearing this. I had a list of things I was going to say at the start. I'm wearing the same dress that I was wearing last week because it's so hot and I need to wear things that aren't clinging to me. It's really horribly hot and thunderstorming, so it's super humid. All right, guys, this has been a really, but you know, it really does. When I think back to all the tiny little changes I had to make in the way that I actually operated in the world and the way that I bought things for myself and my resistance to sizing up in, there you are, sizing up in underwear, in bras, and in everything else. it's like, talk about limiting beliefs. And we are going to talk about limiting beliefs today. And I want to hear how the concept of limiting beliefs, of even just looking at the way that you operate in the world and looking at the way your subconscious works, having to do with kind of categorizing everything into limiting beliefs and seeing how there really are these beliefs underneath all of the things that are giving us stress and especially all of the resistance that we have. A belief like I shouldn't need to size up, or this means something about me, or this is some sort of failure, or there are all of these things that we believe that get in the way of us actually just getting clothes that fit. And I definitely understand that it's a financial burden. I get that it's a practical burden. I understand that it's not fun. I still don't like going clothes shopping. I really, really don't, which is why I started doing Stitch Fix. So they just send them to me and then I can send them back if I don't like them. So I understand, but it does all have to do with limiting beliefs. What are the things that we believe and that we fear that are keeping us from just doing? If we didn't have those beliefs, it would be just a non-issue. It'd be like, okay, well, yeah, it's expensive or it's annoying, but let's just do it. Julia said, I wanted to share that a popular YouTube fitness influencer, Stephanie Buttermore, ooh, that's like a Harry Potter name to me, started her own version of the Fuck It Diet a month ago. So inspiring to see someone like that do the Fuck It Diet. Yeah, that's really, the more people who do something like this, who have different life experiences and different perspectives and can share their experience, the better, because everyone does have a slightly different experience, but then there are these common threads that can help you relax and realize that you're not alone in what you're experiencing. Michelle says, I've been fit several times and cannot for the life of me find a bra that fits now. This is definitely a big issue for me. Even things that fit feel super uncomfortable at this size. I would, if I were you, because boobs and bra size can change a lot, depending, but I gain and lose weight in my boobs first and foremost. So being fit, just 2 months later, it can be a totally different fit. I definitely experienced being fit in high school and college, and then being like, this doesn't fit anymore. And it was because it didn't fit anymore. But if you take a measuring tape and you do right under your boobs and then right over the biggest part of your boobs, right at the nipple, go to Bare Necessities and you can find size charts and then buy a lot of things and try them out. They will have bras that fit you. And then some bras in my size are still uncomfortable, which is why I try so many and why I have my new favorite. So that's what I recommend. Claudia says, I broke through a manual barrier this week and shopped the Plus collection a lot this week. But once the clothes fit so much better, it became super positive. Yes. I forget if I shared this. I don't think I shared this with this group. I think I just shared it somewhere else. But I finally ordered from Bare Necessities a one-piece suit. I was forcing myself to wear bikinis, which never fully fit. And I was like, if I accept myself, I need to wear bikinis. A one-piece suit, but that has underwire in it and actually fits up here and is supportive up here, but then doesn't go all the way in. So it's just sort of it's just nice. And I just realized what have I been doing? This fits. And I'm in my 30s and it's time to wear fucking one-piece suits. Also, they're coming back, but that shouldn't matter. I just feel like I was always meant to be in my 30s. And just look, I support the bikini. I bought another bikini too that I will wear, but I just want to be comfortable. And if we find clothes that fit and work finally, even if it took extra effort to get there, or you had to go over a mental barrier of I shouldn't have to shop in this section, it can change. It can make your life so much better. Moving up in underwear size. I remember doing that. Claudia, I think it was you. No, maybe it was Claire, saying that they went up in underwear size and it was really a stressful experience, even though they fit so much better. I did that. I remember doing that at the beginning of the Fuck It Diet and being like, I can see the beliefs that I should be this specific size that I'm not anymore. And all the fears that I have about what it means about me to have to go up in size. And that, it can actually, taking the step and then dealing with the panic once you take the step can help normalize it, can help actually make it eventually feel like not such a big deal. Yes, I posted that on Twitter about the one-piece suit, and you responded, Sabrina, I think. And Claudia, you meant mental barrier, which I actually said in the retelling of it. I said mental barrier, or I said mental something. So Lauren says, Claudia, the plus size line for Loft is online only, correct? Oh, maybe I missed something and you said Loft and I didn't realize it. Sabrina said, and different stores have different sizing than a different store, like all women's clothes. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm a totally different size in every single bra, and different, like there are the French bras and the US bras and the UK bras, and they're all slightly different sizing, but they're all sold on Bare Necessities. I should do paid partnership with Bare Necessities because I believe in it. I live it and I love it. Claudia says one Central Florida location has it in store, has a plus size in the Loft. It was great to be able to try on. Sabrina says, I've always loved a one piece and I'm 29. Yeah, one pieces are so cool, but I thought that I couldn't wear it because I didn't think that they had support. So finding the one with finding one basically with a bra that fits built in has made all the difference. And I'm never going back, and I'm happy. Julia said, this is good to hear. I've been struggling with clothes fitting tighter than they used to, struggling to transcend this. And then Michelle says, it's difficult in general right now. I get clothes that actually do fit but aren't comfortable. It's hard to explain. Plus size clothes seem to have so much extra material and restricting. I mean, so in the olden days, like you just have to put this in perspective. 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, all of our clothes were made to fit. We didn't have that many clothes, and we would be actually like a dressmaker would make clothes to fit our body. Every time I have done a theater show that is old fashioned, they literally have to like make a corset and like make all the stuff to fit me perfectly. And it's like, it's a totally different experience because they are literally creating something to fit you perfectly. And that's the way it used to be. So it didn't used to be like, oh no, I don't like this fits here and doesn't fit here, which is our experience now when we're looking for clothes. It's hard. Here's the thing. Shopping for clothes is hard, especially when it makes you bump up against all of your beliefs and panic and body issues and food issues, and it's new and changing. It basically is like a physical manifestation of this entire thing. And it's a practical pain in the ass. It's a financial pain in the ass. It's hard. And I just want you to all know that you are not alone there. There's not something wrong with you that you're having a hard time finding clothes that fit, because they don't make, they don't make clothes to actually fit the varied bodies that humans have. They have one sample. My mother she majored in clothes design in college, and then she worked in clothes manufacturing in her early 20s. And she was the fit model. She was the perfect proportion, and they would fit everything to her, and size, and I put perfect proportion in quotes, but according to either, I don't know if it's the standard for every single place that makes clothes, or if just for this company, they were like, these are the ratios that we're going to make all of our clothes based on. And they fit them to my mom. And then they would, it's so crazy. And then they would like, I guess it was just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they kept the ratio of bust to waist to hip, and they would just make it bigger for the bigger sizes. But if you didn't have that ratio, the clothes aren't going to fit right. And so it's it's so hard because it requires money to be like, I'm going to buy clothes and then I'm going to buy clothes bigger and then I'm going to have a tailor make them to my body. Like we don't all have that luxury. So it's hard. It's genuinely hard because it's not made, like they're not empathetically making, most people aren't empathetically making clothes or making the process of finding clothes that fit enjoyable or even makes sense. Like they that's not the way clothes are made. It's mass production. And that's why most of us have such a hard time. I can't find a dress because nothing is like, it doesn't work. It just like the proportions aren't right. And I have the luxury of, still having thin privilege and being able to generally find clothes, but it's still, I struggle with finding clothes just because I am not the normal proportions, like my mom. It's a whole other thing, of course, but so I just want to extend that to all of you so you understand that it is hard. And I wish that I could make it easier for you, but I can't. I still struggle with finding clothes and liking clothes and wanting to go through the whole process. And so I really empathize. And it's the kind of thing that you have to learn by doing it. And that it can be really, really uncomfortable and really frustrating. And it will bring up a lot of panic and it will bring up limiting beliefs. And that if using the method that we are essentially going to be talking about, and that is in the book, it's about, okay, I'm panicking over this. So what is the subconscious thing that I'm not fully aware of right now that is actually getting in my way? And if, for instance, we can pause and identify the belief that is, for instance, I shouldn't have trouble finding clothes, or me having trouble finding clothes means XYZ about me, or I'm not allowed to go up to XYZ size, or this is a sign that everything is spinning out of control. If you can identify that and just have the awareness that that is a belief that isn't necessarily true, that was learned and is basically running the show, running your emotional show, that will give you space from it. So even without doing the tool number 5, belief release, and also tomorrow you're going to get an audio of I thought I was going to do 2. I thought I was going to do an audio of the writing and an audio of just sitting with it and releasing. But the audio of the writing didn't work as well. So I'm just giving an audio of basically you listen to it. It's 7 minutes long and it guides you through using a belief to focus on the stuff that it brings up and then to breathe and feel. So I think I stopped mid-thought there and went on a tangent, but I hope that it's helpful to know that you are not alone in feeling this way about clothes. And by you, I mean everybody, because I think that everybody is, clothes are a physical manifestation of having to accept a different body. And it's hard because it's so concrete, but figuring out what those beliefs are will help explain the specifics of why we're panicking. So as usual, 24 minutes into this call, after me plugging barenecessities.com, is it there? Yes, barenecessities.com. I am going to start answering your questions. So anyone who's live on the call, you can, of course, as usual, ask questions in the chat box, and I'm going to start answering questions that were asked ahead of time. I was looking for the quick way to say questions that were asked ahead of time, but that's what it's going to be, questions that were asked ahead of time. And many of them are on this theme of what we've already been talking about. So the first question is, hi, Carolyn, I'm really enjoying the Fuckatite and this club. This is like the kind, like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm seeing so many changes in my life through this work. One of the things I'm really struggling with is my changing body. I'm trying to embrace this, but it's so hard. Understand as I refeed and find my balance and also my set weight range, this is natural, but I feel so uncomfortable at this higher weight. I know this has been asked, but I guess I just need to hear this is okay. And it's all about validation, right? So this isn't really a question, but I think what you're asking is it okay that I feel uncomfortable at this higher weight? And I'm going to tell you a tiny little story. I have a friend who's kind of an ex-friend now, though we're both bridesmaids in a wedding coming up. We don't really, we don't really connect anymore. She is very, very, very small. She's an extremely tiny human. And I genuinely believe that she has an eating disorder. She had a confirmed eating disorder in college. And, like many people, you think that you don't have one anymore because you can sort of operate normally, and it's also socially acceptable. But anyway, a couple years ago, she gained a couple pounds that I never would have seen in a million years. I had no idea. And she said to me, and this is, I think, before she really realized what I wrote about and what I did, she said, "Oh, I've gained weight and I feel so uncomfortable." And it became very clear for me in that moment that it's all so relative. She was used to being a size 0, and she might have then been in between a size 0 and a size 0. Nobody in the world would have noticed the weight gain, but she felt physically uncomfortable, like her actual body. She felt different. She, in her body, felt different than she had before. And so I tried to say this. I tried to say, look, no one in the world has any idea what you're talking about. But anybody who gains a little bit of weight, even if nobody notices and doesn't mean anything at all, has a different physical experience. Like you feel different in your clothes. You just feel different. You feel different parts of your body touching different parts of your body. And especially because we have these associations about what it means to gain weight, it feels even more uncomfortable. But just on a very, very basic level, having a different physical experience, it feels different. And especially if it's making us bump up against these fears and beliefs that we have about what it means, it's going to feel even more uncomfortable. So this is me validating that it's normal to feel uncomfortable in a higher weight for everybody all across the spectrum of weight. And our associations with it, like especially being in a even higher weight, experiencing this at a higher end of the spectrum, it's going to be even more uncomfortable because of all of the things that it means, about how much harder it is to find clothes, about how much tighter clothes are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that that's helpful, putting it into perspective. And it is very normal and there's nothing wrong. Julia says, I had the thought of things getting out of control this morning when I weighed myself and noticed that I gained X amount over several months. Guys, stop weighing yourself. Don't weigh yourself. There's no need. It's not helpful. It's totally unhelpful because it makes you think about it in such binary terms, and like that, you notice the teeny, tiny changes that don't matter. It's hard enough to get away from feeling different in your clothes, but don't weigh yourself. I understand that some people feel like it's like a compulsion and it makes you feel safe, but really that's just holding on to the structure of the thing that kept us prisoner before. So I recommend, especially in the beginning, don't weigh yourself. I sometimes weigh myself when I see a scale. I'm curious. And then I do the breathe and feel, or like be like, oh, interesting, this would have meant this to me before, but now it doesn't mean anything because of XYZ. But I'm like 7 years into it, and I'm not afraid that it's going to send me into any sort of tailspin. And there is power in being able to totally detach from a number, but I really would not recommend that in the beginning. So that is my first advice. Especially because also you're saying that your mind immediately panicked and said restrict. It's not helpful. It's really, really not helpful because the number means nothing. But we have so many associations with what it used to mean. And so it can, especially in the beginning, especially when panicking, especially when not fully sure that this is something that you have the strength to keep doing, it's just going to make it harder. So I really wouldn't do that. Though I'm sure people are. And also at the very end of my book, you may notice that one of the things is to get rid of your scale. And it's like, I put it at the end to be like, wait, just in case it wasn't clear, we're not using scales here. But I don't say it at the beginning because I have more things to explain. Okay, let's move along to the next question, which is from Montana. And she says, I've been using the breathe and feel tool a lot. Sometimes multiple times a day. I noticed that when I was first using it, a lot of emotion would come up and it felt good to feel it. It was uncomfortable but cathartic. I was able to cry it out a lot. Now I'm feeling less intensity. I feel the discomfort, but I don't usually cry anymore. It feels less cathartic. You mentioned a while back that the breathe and feel tool is kind of a first step into feeling what is in your body. I wonder if you have a step 2 for the breathe and feel, something that can go a little further. Good question, and also gives me a chance to clarify. I actually don't think that it's a first step. I think it's super, super, super basic distillation of what most energy work is in the first place. So I think it is the beginning and the end to be willing to breathe and feel. And especially if what you were doing was bringing up a lot of emotion before, I kind of see that as processing old stuff that was like wanting to be processed. And now to get in a habit of coming back into your body and breathing and feeling what is there, whether it's notable or not notable, helps us to process in real time. And I put that in quotes because, it's relative, but the idea that we can be in a stressful situation or be in an angering situation or be in any sort of thing that brings up emotion or makes us angry or makes us frustrated, and to be able, or to even just have the habit of feeling it as opposed to kind of suppressing it or pushing it aside, it kind of just becomes a way of being. And I think it's really good for us to be able to be in that state. Now, of course, we can't, there's no perfect, like there's no way to do it perfectly. It's like completely normal to say, oh my God, last week was actually really traumatic when my house burned down or whatever, or it doesn't have to be that traumatic or that extreme. But I realized that to survive and to get through last week and to take care of the people that I had to take care of, I did not feel any of that. And to feel things after the fact is actually really normal too. But breathe and feel is super basic, but very, very effective. That's essentially what any, any sort of work around this is going to ask you to breathe and feel what comes up. Now, I know that you are seeing a trauma-informed therapist. So I think you said you're doing EMDR, which is another way. I feel like there are methods to access. Oh, thunder. I bet you guys can't hear it at all, but I can. There are methods to access, I guess, more hidden or more difficult to access trauma. And so I would recommend looking into EFT. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique. It's also called tapping, and there's like a little script, and there are acupressure points. And essentially, in my experience, it sort of just like brings up stuff, and it's to do with meridians, and it's kind of beyond what I understand why it is the way it is, but that there are different channels in our body, and it's very like acupuncture acupressure meridian based, and that it can help access the stuff that we haven't been able to access, or that is stuck, or that is related to a certain belief. So it can actually be really good for limiting beliefs. And then you breathe and feel as the stuff comes up and as you do it. So I hope that's helpful. I would look into emotional freedom technique if you don't know of it already. I think it's really great. I actually used to use it with people I was taking through the Fuck It diet. Like early on, it was like early energy work, because it was something that I had learned myself. It was something that I was using on myself with other beliefs. Do you know who Gala Darling is? I think that's her name. She has a book, I think, that's called Radical Self-Love, I think. And she had this TED talk, I think, where she talked about how she used to have an eating disorder and used EFT, and it totally changed her relationship to food and body. And I was like, this is 2 years into the Fuck It diet. And I was like, EFT, I remember that. I used to use that. I used to like think that I was going to use EFT and stop caring about food, as I used to use all of my, I was trying to self-help my way into skinniness and whatever. I was trying to like self-help diet. But with the perspective of the Fuck It diet, I basically started doing EFT, and I really noticed that it helped. And so all of my energy work stuff has been a way to figure out the simplest way to share it with you. And so that's what the breathe and feel tool and the limiting beliefs have become. However, EFT is, I was like, do I need to train in EFT? Like, I don't know. And it's a little weird. Like you feel a little weird doing this and like saying the thing. And I was like, I think it's great and I'll recommend it to people. But I think that the breathe and feel is also a kind of like less weird beginner. But it's also not a beginner, because breathing and feeling will always be super important and effective and kind of transformative. So I hope that answered your question. And I'm curious to hear what you think. Lauren said, I find that when I do weigh myself, it desensitizes me from the number. Yeah, that can definitely happen, though it is, in the beginning, I think that it's a risky stressor. But there is also, if you are very, 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 very deliberate about it, about you desensitizing from the number, it can be super powerful. But I kind of recommend that further along, because it sounds like Julia was, and Julia, you're not alone. I'm not trying to rag on you, because I'm sure there are lots of people doing the exact same thing, was kind of like doing a like, okay, well, what am I now? And then panicking. And that's a very normal reaction and a normal way to use the scale in the beginning of like, well, just going to make sure things aren't spiraling too out of control. And I think that that's a slippery slope, is basically what I'm saying. So I would not recommend doing what Lauren is doing, though I think that further along you can. And I think that that's a safer way to kind of engage with the scale. She continues to say, however, people used to say, go by how your clothes fit, which I know can be dangerous too. So there are a lot of new adjustments. I have tried tapping and I just feel weird doing it and I can't get myself motivated to keep going. That's a thing. That's like why I was like, I need to move away from this, because it's like too weird to people. And like, I literally saw an Amazon review today where someone was like, it gets a little hippie-ish at times for me, but I guess it was necessary to get the point across. And it's like, I know I was trying really hard to like make it as like straightforward as possible. Cause I really was in a way more woo direction a couple of years ago. And I was like, I know why I was, and I still believe and love all that stuff. But I think that to simplify it is important too. But the thing about any kind of energy work, and you'll feel this with the breathe and feel tool too, is that it's a weird phenomenon, because it basically takes the charge out of things, and it's hard to remember what it's done, because it used to be charged and now it's not, and you almost don't remember how charged it used to be. And I find that a lot with EFT, because it is pretty effective, especially at this point. I mean, I feel like there's like a lot of emotion stored right here, because who even ever gets massaged in the chest? Nobody, especially not me. So anyway, I mean, I believe that emotion and all that is stored in all of our tissues, all of them, which is why they get tense. Okay, I'm going to move on and answer the next question that was asked ahead of time after taking a sip of water. Okay, Zoe says, writing this before I forget it, why is it I can't seem to stomach the idea of certain foods? These foods are mainly items I would consume a great deal of whilst dieting. Did I just answer my own question? Yes, you did. Anyway, I wondered if there's any science behind it to guide me through. I'm mainly talking eggs, vegetables, porridge, etc. I don't think that there's science behind it as much as it's just you being sick of those foods. You are sick of those foods. They have a negative connotation to you because you force yourself to eat them when you really wanted to be eating other things. And you're over them. And I do believe that in time you will begin to crave them again if that's something that you're meant to be eating. After I was a raw vegan, I couldn't even look at a banana for years. And now I buy bananas all the time and eat them, and they're great. The other thing, the way to look at what we're doing to neutralize food is that the more rules we have and the less we're listening, the more charged the food we're not allowing ourselves will be. And also until we fully refeed coming from a restricted state, we just want to eat calories. And the more normal your relationship to food gets, the more genuinely intuitive you'll be able to be, because it won't be ruled by rules, if that makes sense. I feel like that was actually not the best example to talk about that, but yeah, there's no science I can conjure up to explain why you're sick of certain foods. You're just sick of them, and it's totally normal. And the more neutral food becomes, the more of a chance that you'll crave the things that you're not forcing on yourself anymore. And there's also no need. You never need to eat an egg again if you don't want to, but I'm guessing that you will crave them maybe in a year. Maybe it'll take that long. But there's no need to rush there or anything. But I'll be interested to hear if and when that does shift, because that can be an interesting sign too, for people to be like, I hated XYZ because I ate it on diets all the time. And now a year into this process, I actually crave it sometimes. And it's not a horrible experience because I actually want it and it's enjoyable and I'm not forcing myself to eat it. Okay, Jennifer said, I'm wondering if you can speak a bit to some of the stress a lot of people are feeling at this point. And I kind of think that we already did this in the beginning already. But the stress and the doubts of whether this is worth it, the fear of getting bigger, the feeling uncomfortable in our body, which we did talk about, feeling judged and unsupported by others. I think it may help to hear about ups and downs and get more encouragement that the journey gets better and is worth it. Thank you. So let's put this into perspective. We are on week 6. And I know that some of you have been doing this or have been kind of, trying it out before this, but we are on week 6. So a lot of you have totally committed for 6 weeks, which is amazing. And 6 weeks is a, good chunk of time, but not for this particular journey. This particular journey takes a long time. And if you compare it to how long you dieted, which could have been your whole life, and compare it to how long you were restricting or had these beliefs about food and weight, 6 weeks is the very beginning to unravel how moving through this journey affects you. And therefore, so it makes sense that in the beginning, you're like, wow, this is going to change my life. This is amazing. I can't believe I'm allowed to eat donuts. And you're sort of going through this first extreme phase. And then you've spent enough time kind of trying it out and realizing that life is still really hard and that this whole eating thing and clothes thing and life thing is still really hard. And so basically the honeymoon phase is wearing off. And so now we have to do the thing that humans always have to do, is realize, oh my God, my life is always going to be hard in some way, shape, or form. And we're really beginning to bump up against the beliefs that made us diet in the first place. So the reason that the mental part and the part about clothes and the part about all of our beliefs about weight and the part about all of our beliefs in the first place comes at this point is because I've been teaching this long enough to know that the beginning part has to be about food. It has to be about all the food that you haven't been letting yourself eat. It has to be about beginning to allow yourself to do that. And then what happens next is inevitable, and there is no way to avoid it by putting this section first. Like if I'd put this section and the emotional section before the physical section, you wouldn't be able to get very far, because without actually taking the steps and actually eating the food and actually gaining some weight, you can't like cerebrally be like, I'll accept myself. It'll be hard, but it'll be fine. You have to be living it in order to figure out what's really going on and to really move through it and to really process it and really be willing and able to completely change the way that you operate and the way that you see yourself. So I think that this is harder. And there's a reason why I also have said that the physical part is actually the part that shifts. Oh my God. I'm so sick of it. Sorry. I just had a moment where I'm like, I need a bigger house, which isn't true. But again, just goes to show you that humans are never fully satisfied. A house is very cute and it's great and it works. What was I trying to say? That humans are never fully satisfied. Oh, that the physical section is the one that shifts the fastest, because it's the thing that actually very chemically, if you feed yourself a lot of food, it changes your physiology and it changes your brain chemistry too, because you're not in this high ghrelin food fixated phase anymore. And that's not to say that you shouldn't still be in that phase, but I still think that that is the part that will shift the quickest. So if it has not shifted at all yet, it will. And it's also why I say to notice any tiny thing that's shifted, because those are signs that things are shifting just from allowing yourself to eat food. The part that takes the longest, and I think it can take months or years genuinely, because there's so much to work through and there are so many different ways that diet culture affects us and affects the people in our lives, is the emotional and especially the mental parts. So it makes sense that right now is the time when people are like, oh my God, there's so like, this is hard. And like, this is when I really need to figure out all the stuff that's going on in my brain and in my heart and in my subconscious. And it makes sense that right about now is the time that that's really coming to the surface. I hope that that's helpful. I mean, like helpful to hear that this is hard and that it's normal, that it's hard. But basically the, oh my God, the sort of like diet mentality of like, this is the new thing that's going to save my life, which is really, really hard to avoid when starting something new. That sort of honeymoon phase and excitement is maybe wearing off right now. And we're realizing how much mental and emotional work does need to be done. So it makes sense that it is kind of happening around this week. There's also a reason why in the book, I do not have weeks. I do not have a timeline. And if I had a timeline, I would have needed at least 6 months. I have run a 6-month program before, and it is very daunting to people. And there's a reason why I don't do it anymore. I prefer to run shorter programs, like condensing it all in and then allowing the group to continue to work, to talk to each other and to, give updates and kind of like stay on the journey together. But to kind of focus the material, because again, it's not a linear thing. If I dragged up the physical part for 2 months and then dragged up the emotional part and then dragged up the mental part, it all overlaps, which is again, why I think that doing it kind of quickly is helpful, to be like, oh, all of these things kind of affect each other. Now, how do I go back into my life and slowly apply these things? So there's no part of me that thinks that you should have been able to completely heal yourself in 8 weeks. That's not the way that this thing is going to work. So please let yourself off the hook there. We are not meant to do a complete 180 in our lives in 8 weeks. I hope that tiny changes have happened, and I hope that the support and these Q&As and the support from everybody is helpful now and ongoing. But the pressure that you're supposed to have figured this whole thing out in 6 weeks or 8 weeks is something that I want you to take off of yourself, because that's not the way this is supposed to go. And there had to be an order for the book. There's no way to not have an order. And there had to be a timeline on this course. There was no way to just be like, we'll just talk about whatever for the next 5 years. There had to be structure, but I want you to understand that it's not meant to be a timeline. All right, let me see if anybody wrote anything in the chat. Montana said, I love thunder. You're in Philly too. I know, it's so great. I love thunder. I love storms. Oh, I love that. Lauren said, I find that digging deeper is going to take time. I find myself avoiding some of the prompts because I don't even know where to begin with the answer. And that's totally fine. Honestly, I think anyone that promises a super quick fix is lying or ignoring certain realities. I think true change on a fundamental level, which is really what this is meant to be. Look at this little foot. Takes a very long time. It takes a long time. And I think one of the questions coming up will have me address this, but the idea that we're panicking that we don't have it all figured out is totally unhelpful pressure. It's allowed to be a work in progress. It's allowed to be something where you're like, well, today / this week / this month, I'm going to work through this limiting belief that seems to be the thing that's the most stressful to me right now. And then inevitably there will be a new one that comes up, and there's no way to account for it. There's no way to there have been times in different energy work methods that I've used where I've been like, okay, I'm going to make my master list of limiting beliefs, and today I'm going to work through all of them. It's impossible. First of all, it's extremely emotionally draining just to try and do a breathe and feel on one limiting belief. But we're just not meant to process shit at that rate. It's not the way it works. We need to slowly integrate changes in our bodies and our minds and our souls and the way we operate, and the way we are not meant to completely change in 1 second. And for all of you self-help woo-woo spiritual people out there who know of Eckhart Tolle and of Byron Katie, 2 writers that I truly love, but have come to understand and believe that they are not humans anymore. They literally woke up one day and didn't even know who they were, and they had to relearn who they were. And now they speak spiritual, pros. They're not humans. They literally had some sort of alien transformation into a spiritual being who was like, wow, I have a body, and didn't even recognize their children. That is not going to be most of our experiences. For most of us, we have to be like, oh, God, this body is hot. I'm so hot. I'm so hot. And I have so much trauma, and it takes time. And that's just what I've come to understand. Sabrina says, Lauren, I feel the same. I'll put off prompts and I know I'm doing it. I'm working to do them within the same week, even if I'm forcing myself. Montana said, oh my God, anyone doing these prompts is brave as fuck. I do 1 or 2 a week and they are so revealing. Julia says, it might even take a lifetime to completely heal. I think it takes a lifetime to completely heal all of the painful human things, and that we're in life school right now, and that the purpose is to learn the whole time. I do believe, and I just want to put this hope out there that it is possible to heal from eating disorders, disordered eating, and to heal from this body pain within a few years, I would say. I would say you can do a lot of healing in 1 or 2 years and then continue your experience in the next couple years. I think that of course, that doesn't mean that everybody will completely. Some people feel the pull more often than other people, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be this static place of healing. I don't think a static place of healing exists, but I do believe that it's possible to get out of if we're going to use imagery, like if you're like stuck in sort of like a vortex, I think it's possible to get out of the vortex. That doesn't mean that the vortex won't sometimes like lure you to it or pull you to it. And it doesn't also mean that we're not living in a culture that is making us kind of confused as to what is healed and what is health seeking and what's wellness and what's diet culture. Like, it really is difficult. But I think, well, we're kind of talking about semantics here, because what does healing really mean? But I do believe that it's possible to be healed / in remission from eating disorders and disordered eating. Now, I know that there are people who disagree with me, and I don't think that they're wrong either. This just has been my personal experience and my experience of working with other people who 3 years down the line, they're like, wow, I literally feel like a different person. Again, that doesn't mean that we won't have struggles or that we won't have little thoughts here and there that we realize are still part of disordered eating or disordered living or diet culture. But, and then Julia said, oh yes, I did mean to heal our whole being will take a lifetime. Yes. That's what I think. That's what I've come to experience. And Lauren said, sometimes I can't even define what a limiting belief is in my life. Oh, interesting. So you're finding it hard to like even do any of the writing prompts or even like apply this to yourself right now, which is okay. It means that maybe you're kind of stuck or focused on another area or something else that we've been doing, and that you just need to process that and then move on. I mean, people have different rates of processing too. For everyone listening to just the audio, that was me making Molly's little foot dance on the camera. So limiting beliefs are like, can be anything. Like, literally right now, a limiting belief of mine is that I will never be happy in the heat. And there are reasons why I could try to convince myself that that's true, because I get so angry in the heat. And I think I inherently don't like the heat. But the belief that heat makes me an angry person who will never be happy, like, I go to the extreme. I go to like, and then it like makes me feel like I'm allowed to be angry and that I'm allowed to just like hate my life. I really hate the heat. But there is sort of this like lens that I then experience the heat through. Like, literally, there are people who are like, can't you just surrender to the heat? And I'm like, fuck no, like get me out of here. But truly, if I was really honest with myself, the belief that I hate the heat, I'm a person who hates the heat, fuck this, fuck everyone who likes the heat, fuck you for telling me to just drink a lemonade. Like, no, there is a part of me that is perpetuating my heat experience and making it even worse. That is a very simple example of a limiting belief that I currently just realized that I could do a little bit of work on. Will it make me love the heat? Probably not, but it might change my relationship with the heat. If I could do a little reframe and be like, I have a belief that is affecting all these other thoughts and experiences that I have. So that's an example, but like, that was me saying that sometimes you can't even define what a limiting belief is in your life. That makes me wonder if you're making it too precious. Like, there are a couple big limiting beliefs that I have to find. And really, it's more like a million little beliefs that we don't even realize that we have, that we might say all of the time. Like, I would be happier if I was thinner is probably a belief that most of us still think sometimes, even if we've done all this work on it. Now, the point of the work on the limiting beliefs for me and the way that I explain it, and I don't know if I do it justice, but the point is to take the stuck emotion charge out of it so it doesn't have the power to kind of trigger you in an unconscious way, where you can be like, I had suppressed stuff tied up in that limiting belief that was able to like affect the way I responded and affect the way that I acted and affected my, habits and affected the way that I see things and react to things and relate to things. And to do the work around it allows it to not have the power. And that is the goal. Not have as much power. Okay. So Julia says, Eckhart Tolle, yes. And Montana says, haha, he is an alien. And then Lauren says, Sabrina, it depends. I love him. I think he's great. But I think it's helpful for us to realize that those people did not have normal experiences going from like extremely depressed to like everything is great and I don't even know who I am. Hi, pup. And that you shouldn't expect that to be your experience too. Lauren says, Sabrina, it depends on the prompt, but definitely having difficulty with these prompts this week. A lot of anxiety is coming up for me and then I avoid. Julia says, it's been 100 to 110 here in Arizona over the last 2 weeks. That sounds horrible, but I hear that dry heat makes things a little bit more bearable, but I still think I would dislike that. Sabrina says, R.I.P. Julia, R.I.P. Like rest in peace because it's so hot. I don't get it. Explain it. And Julia said, it can be exhausting. Yeah, it can be exhausting. Montana said, people process at different rates, and put it in quotes because I said that just earlier. It's very validating for me. I'm a slow processor. I also had a hard time figuring out what limiting beliefs are. Like Lauren, examples help. And then Michelle says, I have that limiting belief with the cold weather. And it's just so funny because so many people hate the cold the same way. And I had another thing recently where I was like, oh, a lot of people who live here also just hate the winter, but they push through. And that's an interesting perspective to have because I keep thinking, what do you want? You want attention? Well, I'm sorry, but I have to answer some more questions. And then, I don't know what we'll do because it's A, so hot, and B, raining. Why are you squeaking? Oh, no. Okay. Just want her to be on the camera. All right. R.I.P. because of the heat. It's humid in Colorado. So also, is this just my existential crisis that the world is heating up and everything's falling apart? Okay. Are you okay? Okay. I'm going to answer some more questions that were asked ahead of time. Annie says, and I think that this is the one that I was talking about, because clearly I overthink everything and I want to do everything perfectly. I really am working on that. I am now freaking out about my stray, how can I fix my body thoughts? In this section, you talk about the power of our beliefs and how they can and do have real physiological responses in our bodies. So when those negative thoughts pop up, they're fleeting and I'm tapping them out as quickly as possible. But now I'm afraid that even the fleeting thought is going to make my body believe that another diet is around the corner. Will even the briefest moments of doubt make our bodies return to famine mode and counteract all that we are doing? Sorry, I'd just like to pull all of the stray fur off of her. And anyway, no, don't eat it. Don't eat it. That's so gross. That's the worst. Don't eat it. No, that is a very understandable question. And I'm sure that it's something that lots of people are experiencing. But it might have like mini reactions in your body, because I do believe that every single thing we experience can affect our bodies in ways that we aren't even aware of. But the idea, and I experienced this when I first read The Secret, and when I first was learning about law of attraction things, I was petrified. The irony is, it stressed me out so much that I was having all of these thoughts that were going to manifest horrible things in my life. And so I just want to point out that what's so much worse than the thoughts or the tiny fears is then the cascading fear and stress that you have over them. Does that make sense? So no, you don't need to be worried about like the tiny thoughts that are going to sabotage everything, because it's like creating a like an energetic, reaction in your body. Because what's really happening when you worry about that is that you're creating stress cascading through your body that is doing the very thing that you're afraid that you shouldn't be doing. So don't worry about that. Overall intention matters so much more than the tiny micro thoughts that we have. Overall intention to heal your relationship to your body is so much more powerful than the fleeting thought that you need to be better with your eating or whatever, or better with your self-care or whatever. And you said, for me personally, these how can I fix my body thoughts aren't about restriction, but they might be for other people. I have no thoughts or desire to ever go back there to restricting food, except for relapsing about 2 years ago because I never fully dealt with my body image issues. And that having pushed my body back up to its highest weight ever, I haven't restricted in 20 years, but I've done everything else. Excessive exercise, excessive amounts of water and green tea, heat wraps, anything else. So that's where my mind wanders when I'm feeling shitty. Not that that's any better, just for clarification. So I think I hope that I answered what your actual question was. If you have a thought of like, I should drink a lot of green tea today, is that going to make your body respond as if there is a famine? In tiny, tiny little ways, like it might make you like a little bit hungrier that day, but it's not going to totally erase all the progress that you've done. There's just no way. So just know that the stress over that is like creating all these other things that you don't need to worry about, the little micro experiences that you have. Becoming aware of them is helpful. I freaked out and ate a lot of food tonight that I didn't even want, because I was thinking that I should have mostly been, drinking water all day or exercising a lot tomorrow or whatever. Becoming aware of how those little thoughts might be affecting your behavior is the goal, but worrying that they're sabotaging you completely is totally counterproductive and not something you need to worry about, and is only just going to keep you in like a different kind of control issue, if you know what I mean. And Zoe dittoed Annie's. How do I stop the thoughts that I must fix this, that I must fix gaining weight? I'll stop eating all the crap tomorrow and be a healthy person I'm trying to be. There's no way to stop it in its tracks. All you can do is begin to be aware that it's happening in the first place and separate yourself from it. So instead of it just happening and you like living it as if it's like a truth and as if it's like what must be done, is becoming aware that you're having the thoughts in the first place and just like see them like with a friendly, like imagine that anybody who's read Harry Potter, I'm listening to this podcast right now that's going through the books, and it's like getting to experience them all over again. Just pretend that you're Dumbledore and that you have this like curiosity about like the way the mind works. It's the way forward, because anything else keeps you in, and not just like I said about for Annie's question, it keeps you in another stress state trying to control something that's naturally happening, which is our brain. Our brain is like completely mad and meant to just never stop. It's meant to continue to identify threats, whatever we perceive those threats to be. And if we've learned all our lives that gaining weight is a huge threat to our like, ways of receiving love, it's going to be a threat. And to like try and manage them in a way that doesn't end up being completely helpful for most of the things that aren't truly life-threatening threats. So just accepting that our brain is going to do that, and that the more aware of it and kind of curious about it you can be, the better. I'm going to go back to the, oh, little baby, you're so annoying. Lauren said, would an example of a limiting belief be when I eat a meal, I think this food won't fill me up and I can never get full? Yeah, for sure. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you probably have so many more limiting beliefs than you think. It seems like you think that there are like maybe 5 limiting beliefs that exist for you. Whereas my experience has been that we have like, 1,000 that like are like, different versions of other limiting beliefs that can pop up all of the time. But yes, that's an example. This food won't fill me up is one. This food isn't going to fill me up. So that's just like an unnecessary belief. It doesn't matter whether it's going to fill you up or not. It just matters whether it does or not, Does that make sense? I can never get full is another limiting belief. But I think that the ones that those are definitely limiting beliefs, definitely. But I think that the ones that are more like stressful diet body beliefs are also interesting ones to identify. Like, trying to see. So don't fill me up. I would need to hear more about what is the, when you say this food won't fill me up, why are you saying that? Are you saying that because you're not giving yourself enough, or because what? I feel like I would need to know a little bit more about like what the whole dialogue is that encompasses I can never get full. Curious. Is it a fear? Is it a fear that you're a bottomless pit? Like that actually seems like more of a limiting belief. Like I am insatiable and there's something wrong with me, but I'm not quite sure that that's where it's coming from. So I'm curious to know. But yeah, literally any thought you have is an example of what could be a limiting belief. And if it's stressful and literally negative and limits your life experience, that's what we call a limiting belief. You're so good. Julia says, Molly is adorable. Your relationship with her reminds me of my relationship with my cat. So close and loving. I do love you. I love you so much. She's going to get her last summer haircut this week. And then I'm going to let it grow into the fall and winter. Molly, look. Look. It's you. That's you. Whatever. She doesn't get it. All right. There are one or two more questions that were asked ahead of time that I'm going to answer. And then we will go off into our, what day is it? Saturday. Okay. So Janie says, wish I could join the call, but I hope you're still able to address my question. Okay. Molly, get away from the microphone. It's related to how we think about food and the physiological responses in the body. I'm 100% guilty of operating with the belief that everything I eat is going to kill me. I think this is another version of Amy's question too. I'm getting better about eating gluten, dairy, sugar, and non-grass-fed organic foods without guilt, and I'm certainly enjoying a variety of foods. Lobster with butter, that makes me want a lobster roll. Okay, yum. Grilled corn, seafood penne and cream sauce, 2 pecan pie bars made for an epic 4th of July feast this week that I wouldn't have been able to enjoy while dieting. But I really do catch myself thinking this isn't healthy, but fuck it, about a lot of my food. Or jokingly thinking something's likely to give me cancer down the line. Might as well enjoy this burger and fries today. How can I train my brain to just cut the shit and eliminate those lingering health fears? Right now it feels impossible, but also seems like an important piece of of truly following the FIDE diet and letting my body fully heal. I think that it can be a combination of two things. I think one, overall, work on trying to slowly retrain your brain to think of your body as being resilient. I think there's something really liberating about being like, well, like the world is going to kill me somehow. So like this food is the least of my concerns. Like I feel like making food more of a non-issue is a helpful overall goal. At the same time, I think, and I say this in the book in the shitty food section in quotes, I think that we're just curious if you guys can see Molly. Molly, you're such a weirdo. I think that it's impossible to force yourself to erase everything you've ever believed or everything you still currently believe about food. So I think lowering the stakes on it, and I think focusing on resilience and focusing on the big picture is, and letting yourself eat things even if you think that they're unhealthy because you are resilient and that it's not as dire of a situation as we have been afraid that it is the best bet to get to a neutral place with food where that food, again, doesn't have the charge. It doesn't have the pull. It doesn't have this rebellious, you ate it, you'll eat it. It's fine. It's delicious. It's okay. You don't necessarily believe it's healthy, but it doesn't matter because A, you're resilient, and B, we're going to die. So I think some combination of like, fuck it, like without the fear that you're like slowly killing yourself, I think that it's more helpful to believe that you are strengthening yourself and that you are resilient and that, you know, our body processes out a million like toxins all the time from our fucking couches. Like I really do believe, like I believe in toxins. I know that I'm like an outlier in the anti-diet world because of that, but I still don't believe that it's worth fearing the world and fearing food. Like I literally think that food is probably the least of our worries, especially because we're meant to be able to process out what we can. So, and I have like a whole experience of like having chronic illness and like working through different things and working with, you know, some integrative doctors who do talk about toxins, but it really is just about like supporting your body to work as well as it can, because your body is meant to process stuff out. And some people aren't as good at it as other people. But you can't live in a bubble, you know? So I think that there's room for nuance and there's room for both things being true at the same time. But okay, so my actual answer to your question is short, big picture, focus on I am resilient. I don't need to eat only whatever I think is perfect food, because I think that we do all come from a specific diet background. And so even though we're trying to unlearn things, we're trying to unlearn specific things, right? So we all come in with our own beliefs about what's healthy and what's not. And even if we're trying to neutralize food, we still like, you can't just like erase the things that you've learned and the things that you have believed to be true, or the things that you may still believe to be true, but you're trying to take away the rules and the fear. So I think big picture, we're resilient. Food is the least of our worries. On the small picture, I don't think that's what people say. Like when you're actually eating the thing, it's like, if you don't believe, if like deep down you're like, I don't really think that this is healthy, but like I really want it right now, and like that, it's just not a big deal. I think that it's okay to not think everything is healthy and to still have a healthy relationship with it, where you're like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. This is harder for people who have like really big reactions to certain foods. Some people have really bad physical reactions to foods. But on the flip side, I think that sometimes makes it easier, because you can be like, I'm going to have like really bad gas for like a day, and it's a choice. I either am going to do this to myself or I'm not. Or, or whatever. So I hope that that's a helpful perspective. Lauren said, I think I'm always thinking about my next meal and I shouldn't be eating this much. So I shouldn't be eating this much is a huge limiting belief. I shouldn't be so fixated on food is a huge limiting belief. There's something wrong. My fixation on food, there's something wrong with me. Like, I shouldn't be this hungry. I shouldn't want this much food. I shouldn't be eating this much food. Those are all limiting beliefs that I think are more destructive than this meal isn't going to fill me up. That's still something that's worth like looking at. Like, why do I believe this meal isn't going to fill me up? But I think that the more destructive ones and the more insidious ones are like, I shouldn't be this hungry. I'm doing this wrong. This isn't going to work for me. There's something wrong with me. I can't trust my hunger, etc. And those are things that these are things that we just think without realizing we're thinking them. So having the actual space to notice that we're thinking them and that we have these beliefs in the first place is really, really powerful step. All right, guys. Any more questions? Daphne says, I always have these limiting beliefs. I'm eating too much. I'm always thinking about the next meal. The belief that you're eating too much, there are certain beliefs that have a cascade of beliefs. Like, if what you're believing is that you're eating too much, then within the context of diet culture, the next obvious belief that you also have is, I shouldn't be eating this much. I should stop eating this much. Later, I'm going to stop, or I should stop myself eating right now, or I shouldn't eat this much tomorrow, and I should fix this. And so it becomes this thing of like, I'm going to put myself on a diet. Like, that's how quickly I shouldn't be eating this much becomes, we're going on a diet next. Especially if you put yourself on a diet over and over and over again, like that loop in your mind and body is like ingrained. And that's why just that thought can make people binge or make people really, really hungry, because it's so quickly, without even you realizing, that cascade of beliefs affects your body. So Daphne says, I'm really desperate. I have limiting beliefs, but I don't think I can control them. It's not about controlling limiting beliefs. Just like I said, about the brain is always going to have thoughts, right? Even if they're stressful thoughts. But it is about having the space between you and the belief, and then figuring out what panic in your actual body is. There's like a feedback loop that we don't realize that we're in, that the beliefs affect the emotions, affect our hunger hormones. And it kind of it's kind of doing this thing without our being aware that it's happening. And so it is about having awareness around the beliefs, doing the breathe and feel, writing about your beliefs, and like really doing the work to begin to process the things that the beliefs are connected to, because without doing that, they will have this automatic response in your body that makes you binge. And so doing the work to actually first be aware of the beliefs, then to notice when they're happening with curiosity, and to actually begin to unpack them with the brain dump, the breathe and feel, because it is about then what are the emotions and like body responses that it's attached to, and putting those things together is tool number 5, the belief release. That is why I have them in the book, because in my experience, that is the only way to process all of the stuff that's attached to our beliefs and thoughts, and to have it not rule you, to have it not be this automatic, basically trauma response in our body from all of the years that we dieted. you don't have to control your thoughts, but it is about being willing to sit with the panic and to do the work with the tools. I mean, the tools are already in the book, but I hope in this moment I'm able to put a new perspective on why they're there in the first place. Why do I even have them in there? Because it disrupts that feedback loop. It disrupts us from going from the subconscious belief to the panic to the binge. And even when we're aware of the belief, sometimes we really need to do that emotional breathe feel work that has to do with the belief, because otherwise it's still going to keep, it's like basically unprocessed stuff that is acting out. Does that make sense? I think that those were good questions to ask because it allowed me to put the tools that exist, the last three tools, the breathe and feel, the brain dump, and the belief release. And the belief release is the brain dump plus the breathe and feel. That's why they exist. It exists to allow us to process the emotions that are attached to the stressful beliefs that we have that will allow us to move away from being captive and stop them from being in charge, essentially. Does anybody else have any other questions before we go into this next week? This has been a good call. Started with bras, ended with the tools and limiting beliefs. I'm really glad that Molly was able to join us here. Are you sleeping? And as always, this is not the end. There's so much more time to apply all of this stuff. We can and will go over everything we just went over again next week. Any follow-up questions to anything that I've said tonight? It is helpful for me to say things over and over again in slightly different ways, because sometimes it's the third way that really lands with people. And other than that, thank you for being on the call. I'm going to give it one more minute just to see if there's any last questions, concerns. You've been very good here. You really have been very good. And you haven't been barking. All right, guys. Sabrina said, bye, Caroline. Bye, Molly. Goodbye. You know your name. You know your name. All right, goodbye. Who am I saying goodbye to? Bye, guys. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for being live on the call. Thank you for watching the replay. Thank you for listening to the audio, the 4 of you out there who listen to the audio. And I will talk to you soon.